Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sunday, August 20th. We started school last week. Kids came back on Thursday. And let me tell you, some people wonder, why do schools start like on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, and only do like 2 or 3 days? Why not just start on a Monday? Because it's exhausting. That's why. Because teachers are coming home at 4 o'clock and just going to bed. If I had to do a full week for the first time, to start school off on a Monday, I think I would just crawl in a hole and not come out. It's exhausting. I had to run to Tulsa yesterday, and I was so tired. I came back and I just went to sleep, and I slept till like 8. So the first 2 days of school wore me out. It'll get better. My stamina will come back, but here at the beginning it's a little rough. So we are in Psalm 78. This one is long, like 72 verses. This one's a long booger. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to read, and as I notice stuff to add my input, I'm going to stop there and do it so that I don't have to try and remember it to say at the end. So bear with me. It'll be okay. My people, hear my teaching. Listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things from of old. Things we have heard and known, things our ancestors have told us. We will not hide them from our descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, His power, and the wonders He has done. That's our job, right? Is to share with the next generation what God has done. God moves in different ways for everybody, and we need to share what God has done for us, not only with, our peers, our equals, if you will, as far as age goes, but with those younger kids, with younger Christians, because they need to know the amazing things that God has done so that they are in awe of God just like we are. His decreed statutes for Jacob and established. He decreed statutes for Jacob and established the law in Israel. There we go. Which he commanded our ancestors to teach their children, so the next generation would know them, even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. Then they would put their trust in God and would not forget His deeds, but would keep His commands. They would not be like their ancestors, a stubborn and rebellious generation, whose hearts were not loyal to God, whose spirits were not faithful to Him. In the same way as telling them the amazing things that God does, we need to teach them the laws of God, right? Things that we are to do and not do. What God says is right and good, and then what God says is a sin. We need to teach that as well. The men of Ephraim, I think, though armed with bows, turned back on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant and refused to live by His law. They forgot what He had done, the wonders He had showed them. He did miracles in the sight of their ancestors in the land of Egypt, in the region of Zoan. He divided the sea and led them through. He made the waters stand up like a wall. He guided them with the cloud by day and with light from the fire all night. He split the rocks in the wilderness and gave them water as abundant as the seas. He brought streams out of a rocky crag and made water flow down like rivers. But they continued to sin against Him, rebelling in the wilderness against the Most High. They willfully put God to the test by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against God. They said, "Can God really spread a table in the wilderness?" True, he struck the rock and water gushed out. Streams flowed abundantly. But can he also give us bread? Can he supply meat for his people? When the Lord heard them, he was furious. His fire broke out against Jacob, and his wrath rose against Israel, for they did not believe in God or trust in his deliverance. Yet he gave a command to the skies above and opened the doors of the heavens and rained down manna for the people to eat. He gave them the grain of heaven. Human beings ate the bread of angels. He sent them all the food they could eat. He let loose the east wind from the heavens, and by his power made the south wind blow. He rained meat down on them like dust, birds like sand on the seashore. He made them come down inside their camp all around their tents. They ate till they were gorged. He had given them what they craved. But before they turned from what they craved, even while the food was still in their mouths, God's anger rose against them. He put to death the sturdiest among them, cutting down the young men of Israel. So God does all this stuff for them, and they still want more. He has delivered them, taken care of them, and proven time and time again that he's going to be with them, that he's going to walk with them, that he's going to deliver them, and they still are greedy and they still want more. So even in his wrath, he gives them manna. So he delivers them, right? Splits the sea, gives them water from a rock, all these things. Now he's given them food. And yet, verse 32, in spite of all this, they kept on sinning. In spite of his wonders, they did not believe. All these things, and they still aren't satisfied. They still aren't believing that that he can do everything, right? So he ended their days in futility and their years in terror. Whenever God slew them, they would seek him. They eagerly turned to him again. They remembered that God was their rock, that God Most High was their Redeemer. But then they would flatter him with their mouths, lying to him with their tongues. Their hearts were not loyal to him. They were not faithful to his covenant. Yet he was merciful. He forgave their iniquities, and did not destroy them. Time after time he restrained his anger and did not stir up his full wrath. He remembered that they were but flesh, a passing breeze that does not return. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and grieved him in the wasteland. Again and again they put God to the test. They vexed the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his power, the day he redeemed them from their oppressor, the day he displayed his signs in Egypt, his wonders in the region of Zoan. He turned their river into blood. They could not drink from their streams. He sent swarms of flies that devoured them and frogs that devastated them. He gave their crops to the grasshopper, their produce to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamore figs with sleet. He gave over their cattle to the hail, their livestock to bolts of lightning. He unleashed against them his hot anger, his wrath, indignation, and hostility, a band of destroying angels. He prepared a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave them over to the plague. He struck down all the firstborn of Egypt, the firstfruits of manhood, in the tents of Ham. But he brought his people out like a flock. He led them like sheep through the wilderness. He guided them safely, so they were unafraid. But the sea engulfed their enemies. And so he brought them to the border of his holy land, to the hill country his right hand had taken. He drove out nations before them and allotted their lands to them as an inheritance. He settled the tribes of Israel in their homes. But they put God to the test. They rebelled against the Most High. They did not keep his statutes. Like their ancestors, they were disloyal and faithless, as unreliable as a faulty bow. They angered him with their high places. They aroused his jealousy with their idols. When God heard them, he was furious. He rejected Israel completely. I've still got more here. We're only at verse 60. But God does all this for them. For a while, he's nice. He's merciful. He forgives them. Then he gets fed up. And he kills them off. He sends grasshoppers and locusts to eat all their food. This is where teaching the next generation comes in, to avoid stuff like this, right? To tell them that, yes, you may have hard times, but God is with you. Don't abandon him. Don't take him for granted. All right, we're going to read the last 12 here. He abandoned the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had set up among humans. He sent the ark of his might into captivity, his splendor into the hands of the enemy. He gave his people over to the sword. He was furious with his inheritance. Fire consumed their young men, and their young women had no wedding songs. Their priests were put to the sword, and their widows could not weep. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. He beat back his enemies. He put them to everlasting shame. Then he rejected the tents of Joseph. He did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but he chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. He built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth that he established forever. He chose David his servant and took him from the sheep's pens. From tending the sheep, he brought him to be the shepherd of his people, Jacob, of Israel, his inheritance. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart and skillful hands. With skillful hands, he led them. So, I feel like this also goes back to the leadership part of it. We follow a faithful leader better than we follow I don't want to use the wrong word here. If you trust your leadership, you're going to follow them. If we have God as our leadership, if we are following Christ like we're supposed to, we can trust God and know that no matter what comes, it's going to be okay. That goes into any sort of job, right? If you can trust your leader and know that they've got the best interest at heart for you, for your company, for whatever it is, in my case, for our school, if I can trust our leader and know that they have the right intentions, then it makes my job a whole lot easier. Trust that Christ is your leader and that everything is going to be okay. Don't forget, in times that are tough, of the times that He brought you through in the past, and know that He's going to do it again. Don't turn against Him just because He doesn't seem to be present in that moment, because I promise you, He is present. Sometimes we just got to look a little bit harder. Everyone have a great Sunday. Have a great start to your week. And of course, go be the example.